Start recording. We are hopefully recording. Okay, great. So this session is how to get people to use my system, which is obviously all about user ideas and practical solutions. And that's actually, Dustin, what we were just talking about while we were just waiting for you to come back online. But yeah, Dustin Domaris, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Dustin. He's from the States. If you want to just do it, obviously you probably got a quick introduction to yourself there, but he is an expert on this stuff. I've seen him present at lots of different events in the last few years about these types of topics. So I'm looking forward to this session. It's as I mentioned before, it's a subject close to my heart, so I'm hoping to learn some stuff. But a bit of normal meeting etiquette. If you could stay on mute if you're not speaking. If you want to ask a question, by all means, drop it in the chat and I will pick that up. I'll keep an eye on the chat so Dustin can concentrate. And or if you want to raise your hand at any point, we will ask the question at an appropriate point. Dustin is talking. So thank you very much. And thank you, Dustin. I'll leave it to you and hand it over.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, everybody. So as Andrew mentioned, my name is Dustin Domaris. And so I'm from Missouri, Kansas City area, and right in the middle of the States. And I've kind of had a chance to give a few of these sessions over the last several years. A lot more remote today than in the past, but it's good to at least be able to talk about user adoption and change management and some of the things that go along with it. So I'll try to kind of keep everything a little bit condensed today, since I know we're limited on time, but I certainly hope that a few of these basic things that we'll talk about may help you with some of your projects right away. So this is, how our customers think that our projects work. They have a very utility mindset about projects a lot of times. And what that means is that a lot of times they believe that the software is supposed to fix every part of their business. It's supposed to make them more efficient. It's supposed to eliminate all of their double entry, any mistakes that they could make. And a lot of times they get frustrated when the systems don't do that. And instead, we really need to make sure that we're talking about some of the things that truly will help them fix their business. And many times what that actually is it's the people that are involved. So understanding the people and how all of the personalities work inside of an organization can really, really help to make a project go smooth or off the rails, depending on how you look at it. But the truth is, this is how a project really looks, right? I mean, they're complicated. There's a lot of different processes. We're talking about years sometimes of complex processes that a customer has in place. Could be multiple departments, multiple countries with different regulations, lots of types of businesses under the same brand, people with a variety of technical backgrounds. You may have some folks on the team that are very technical, some that are not, and that's all great. We want a lot of different types of people on these teams, but that causes complexity. Also, you could just have the technical part of things that gets complex, systems that need to be integrated, legacy data that needs to be migrated, complex security policies within the organization. There's just a lot of stuff. And all of that's really ever before you begin talking about a change in technology. And so really technology is one of the simplest part of our projects. And we see this over and over again, that the most complicated part of a project is the people. And so what makes this most complicated? It's you. And it's our teams, and it's the people that we work with. And it's also probably one of the most complicated problems to actually solve, because it's not as simple as making a Power App do something different than what it was doing before, or creating a new Power Automate flow. You can have people that have years of experience in the industry, employees that are trying to make their mark on an organization. We see that a lot, where you may have a new person inside of an organization that, they're trying to leave their mark. They're trying to make themselves valuable. And a lot of times that can cause challenges with a project. But you also sometimes have to just help people unlearn the way that they used to do things. And that is sometimes one of the most difficult things to do, is to really convince people that they're not doing things the right way and that they need to change. The understanding of needing to change sometimes is harder than the actual change itself. You could have different personalities, different goals for why you're implementing, egos, company. All of those things make it so complicated. That's why it's hard. And so if we begin to really think about these things from the beginning of a project, it'll really help us to drive that user adoption, because it's not so much about the system and technology. Sometimes it's more about the people, and seeing that user adoption that happens naturally because we've done the people part right. So we'll talk a little bit about, in the next few slides, I want to give you just kind of 10 quick tips for what you can do to try to help drive user adoption inside of the organization, and trying to think about the people that are involved and what some of the things are that you can do to help mitigate those risks. So the first item is change management. So everyone loves talking about change management. If I had $1 for every project where people talked about implementing change management and then never did it. I mean, it is the most mythical thing that's out there, is how do we do change management? But there is a real way to do it. And it's critical that you either find somebody inside of the organization that understands it, or you hire someone from the outside to help. That's one of the most important parts, is really, really getting change management right. Don't just say it's something we're going to do on the side. Make it a focus of the project, is doing a change management. And I'll give you some tips here on some of the things that you can do to help drive that, but it has to be a focus. We have to be thinking about change management from the beginning of the project, and not just leaving it to the end to make sure that we're talking about it as a part of training or as a part of go live. It really does have to be a focus. And one of the tools that are out there, there is something called the Power Platform Adoption Framework that Andrew Welch has, and I'm not sure if anyone has had a chance to take a look at it, but I would encourage you to take a look at his tools. He's got some really good stuff out there that's just kind of open to the community for you to take a look at. And that adoption framework is a really, really cool set of tools that's out there. I'd encourage everybody to take a look. So the second most important thing that you can do for change management and user adoption is throw a party. So everyone loves a good party. And so making sure that you're getting people excited for the session, for every working session that you do, for every single go live that you do, every training session that you're doing, every single project really needs to be a party. And that could be some cool things about, taking photos of meetings, taking photos of kickoff, publishing some sort of a monthly newsletter. Make it fun. Making sure that we're communicating all of those things about all the fun things that are going on in the project, communicating the status. I've even seen some companies actually come up with like a cool project name as a part of implementing a new system, or as a part of rolling out a new feature. They may have a fun project name that they then put on mugs and t-shirts and mouse pads and all kinds of swag for the project team. That's a really cool way to just kind of make it fun. But communication is the most critical thing. We have to combat that fear about a new system. And if we over communicate where we're at, what the status is, all the cool things that are happening, sending some early screenshots out, those sorts of things will really help combat that fear. And I think it will help to drive people to use the system more naturally because they're excited about it. So the third thing about user adoption, from the very, very beginning, before you really start the project, you've got to make sure you have a good project leadership team in place. And sometimes leaders come from unexpected places. What you're looking for is you're looking for the troublemakers as a part of the organization. It's the ones that have that desktop computer sitting under their desk and it's running 3-access databases that nobody knows about, right? Those are the troublemakers that you're looking for, and bring them into the project team. A lot of times we're scared to have those a part of the project team because they're kind of troublemakers in the organization. They want change, they're driving for change, they want to do things different, they have their own ideas. Those are the ones you need to bring into the project team. Don't just shy away because they're very opinionated and because they're troublemakers, so to speak. It's an affectionate term, troublemaker. Those are the individuals in the organization that you really need to bring into the team. But so this is kind of a hierarchy that we use as a part of structuring our project teams internally. And so whenever and these are not necessarily job titles, what this is think about this as more of a personality type that you're looking for in a project team. So the first person that you're looking for is, who is my visionary in this project? When you're identifying your team, think about who's the person who can come up with 100 new ideas every day and 99 of them are terrible. Anyone who says there's no bad idea has not been a part of some visionary sessions. There are some bad ideas, and it's good to get the bad ideas out. Guess what? You have to get through those in order to come up with the good one. But the visionary will also come up with those 1 or 2 ideas that will be game changers for the project. They will be amazing. It will create a catalyst of change in the organization. It will help people think about things in a different way. That visionary is critical to making sure that the project is a success, because you have to have someone who's seeing the big picture, that's coming up with all those new ideas, that's really on the edge of innovation. But that person can't run the project by themselves, because otherwise it's going to go off the rails. You're going to go over budget because they have 100 new ideas every day. And I know some of you have experienced that already, probably with some of the projects that you've worked on, that it's just really easy for those visionaries to take over a project and really run it off the tracks. So you have to have an integrator. The integrator is the person who is task focused. You're looking for somebody who loves to write things down, loves to make lists, the type of person who loves to just get things done. That is your integrator. They may not necessarily be a visionary in the sense that they're coming up with new ideas and being on the cutting edge of innovation, but they just get stuff done. That's who you're looking for to be in your integrator role. The integrator's job is to execute everything for the project team, to make sure that project management happens, to make sure that all of that stuff gets documented very well. So those are your 2. You want to find your visionary, you want to find your integrator, then the rest just kind of falls in naturally. Those are what we would typically call our subject matter experts, or it would be potentially some individuals that could be a key decision maker in each department, that kind of stuff. But the key thing is that bottom row, that can expand. You may have different departments, different individuals in that bottom section, but you've got to have the right people in the right seat from a visionary and integrator perspective that will really help the project. And there's a book out there that a lot of this is driven on. It's called Rocket Fuel. And so if you have some time or you want some light reading, it's a really easy read. It's a fun book called Rocket Fuel. It talks a lot more about how to build a successful team. And then also, of course, I'm sure most of you heard about a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Those are really good books as well about how to build a great project team. So 4th, once we have built an amazing team, we've got to trust them. We've got to learn to let go of the rope. We've got to empower that team to make decisions. That's the only way that the project's going to work, is if we put people in the right position and then we trust them to make good decisions. Well, I'm telling you, the whole new wave of citizen developers is causing all of the old dogs like me to really struggle letting go of the rope. I've had a struggle with this personally, because I've been doing Microsoft CRM since version 1.0. And so, it's the project team and it's the IT department that should be getting in there and making changes. So the concept of citizen developers is something that even I've had to learn how to let go of and how to really understand the power of it. And I do now. But it's because we start to let go of the rope and trust other individuals to do good work and to do the work correct. Now, are they going to do it right all the time? Absolutely not. They're going to mess it up. They're going to push solutions. It's going to break things. They're going to do things that are not right. So you've got to have good processes in place to try to put those gates on those individuals and on the project team, but you can't let that be a reason why you don't learn to delegate things and trust and then correct anything. That really is the true role of a leader. If you can't let go, then you're not just a leader, you're just a doer. So you've got to learn how to lead the rest of the team, and that will really, really help from a user adoption standpoint, help everyone to get plugged in to what the overall project is going to do, is to really be led by that project team. So number 5, we have to set measurable and attainable goals. So as an example, one potential goal could be we want to eliminate entry into 2 different systems, or we want to reduce customer service clicks when we log a ticket by 10. We want to create one form that we can view everything about a customer. Those are measurable and attainable. We will know at the end of the project whether or not we were successful with those 3 items because we have wrote them down, we've measured it, and we know what success means. So many times we start a project and we don't have the end goal in mind. We don't have that specific set of measurable and attainable goals in place to really understand whether we were successful. And so then when you get into the project, things start going sideways, you start getting new requirements, things start to become confused. And that's what leads to poor user adoption, is because you end up with a system that's trying to do everything for everyone instead of really achieving the goals that the company set from the very beginning. So that is really the way to drive some of that user adoption, is making sure that the goals that you've set out are the things that you achieve with the project. So once you start the project, think about this. All of that stuff I just talked about is all before you ever start. Implementing change management, throwing a party, getting people excited, creating a good project team, letting go of the rope and letting them be the decision makers. All stuff that happens before the project. But when the project starts, things are going to go wrong. And where things go wrong is sometimes the critical part of the project where it either is successful or it fails, especially from a user adoption standpoint. So you get into this cycle of sprints and releases and design meetings. Stress causes things to go wrong. What happens? Well, the first thing that typically happens is the customer or your internal team starts to blame the previous partner or the consultant. They start to say that there are, well, it's all their fault. They architected it incorrectly, those sorts of things. Beware of that, because probably the previous partner or the consultant wasn't the problem. There's probably business processes in place that need to be fixed. So don't let that be an excuse. Make sure that you're overcoming that excuse to really get to the root of the issue. Otherwise, you're going to implement the same and have the same user adoption challenges in the new system that you had in the old, because you're letting the project team continue to go down the path of the same thing that they did before. The second thing that happens is typically they blame the person who had the job before them. Well, they had bad processes, they implemented some bad things, they had instilled some habits that were not successful. Don't let that be a reason either. They're not in that job anymore. You're in that job. Try to encourage people to make the decisions and really drive the success. And then what happens next is they blame the vendor. And I know as a partner, I've been on the receiving end of this several times, but well, we should have selected this other vendor. We should have went with this other software solution. That comes next. All of those kind of things really, really begin to derail the project. And what it is it's pointing fingers at things that are not the problem. The real problem is probably you. It's probably the people. And what we need to do is admit that we don't know how to fix it and go seek help in being able to understand to fix the problem. And that can be an outside individual who comes in and takes a look at the project and tries to get it back on track. It could also be implementing some of that change management stuff that we talked about in the beginning. All of those things, you've got to really make sure that you're not letting software, the vendor, the person who had the job before, the previous partner and consultant, don't let them bear the burden. the burden is on the project team. And so making sure that we're coaching that project team to really take responsibility for everything will be key to making sure that that the system is adopted at the end. Number 7, every project needs a war room when things are going wrong. Now, in this day, that could be a Teams room, it could be a Zoom meeting, whatever it is. But a lot of times you've got to get everybody together on the same page, making sure that everything is back on track. And this is hard because it really is, people don't like conflict. So when things are going wrong in the project, it's awful easy just to kind of keep going, so to speak, and just say, well, we're almost there. We're going to get there. Everyone's going to be happy with it at the end. Probably not. When things are going wrong, that means that there's something that's disconnected, either with the people or the system, or something is not right. Make sure you have everybody in one room and that you can kind of pull everyone together to make those decisions and figure out what's going on internally with the project. That's most important. You've got to have communication, and the only way to do that is by putting everybody that's decision makers, everyone in that project team together at one time to figure out what's going wrong with the project. This is still critical. And when we can go back on site and meet with everyone again, I encourage everyone to really not forget about that personal connection. I think we all got in the world of remote work very quickly, and we're now all seeing the value of that personal connection. And I think once we can get back to that, that will really help as well. And just I'll give you a complete transparency. We had a project that kicked off in March of this year, and we had the one on-site kickoff meeting, and then after that, everything has been remote, of course, since that time. But we had several Teams meetings where everyone in the project team, and there were close to 50 or 60 team members on this project, were all on the call all at the same time to really talk about what the issues are and what they could do to fix it. And I think that that was the main reason why this project was successful. And we all admitted that even with that, it was not the same as everyone getting in the same room to be able to work through issues and plan out strategy and do all of those things from that personal connection level. So once we're back to that point, I'll be excited. I know everyone else will be excited as well. Whenever we can do that next on-site kickoff meeting, hopefully sometime next year, that will be awesome. Well, once you've done all of that, you're finished, right? You've set up the system, you've installed it, all of the configuration's been done, people have been trained, we're ready, we're all done. And no, the answer is no. Nothing could be further from the truth. Once you go live, that is when the project really starts. Having quarterly health checks, making sure that you're setting up recurring meetings and touch points with the users who've been trained to make sure that they don't have any questions. After the project, recording training videos and kind of doing recurring training and pushing those out to your users. All of those things are critical to make sure that adoption happens. You cannot just go live and then expect that adoption should occur naturally. You have to be intentional about some of the things that you do after the project to make sure that the adoption occurs. And you can do contests, you can do some really cool things around the way that you incentivize people to use the system. You know, the whole gamification concept that's been around for a while, you can certainly use that. But you also have to understand different personality types and what drives them. You know, your sales personality type is really driven by public recognition. They want to be recognized publicly, whereas your customer service personality is probably going to be driven more by praise about the team or praise from the customer because they really want to know that they've done a good job serving the customer. So you've got to kind of use those things to your advantage and making sure that you're encouraging people the right way that fits their personality type. And all of that kind of goes along to those recurring meetings that you're having with individuals, that you're really kind of getting to the root of where the problem is. But if you start feeling that point where user adoption's slipping away, you start to see that not everyone's using the system, they're not entering data, they're not following the processes, reset. Make sure you hold people accountable for decisions that were made in the beginning. Get that war room back together again and say, look, guys, we are having some struggles here. People are not using it. They're not following the process. What do we need to do to fix it? Don't let it go on too long before you do a reset and make sure everybody's on the same page again. So what happens if they don't use the system? Well, the 10th step here, natural adoption is always the best way. And I think if you do steps 1 through 9, then you won't have to worry as much about step 10 here. But a lot of times this is where people are starting. They're starting to think about, what can I give away? The whole carrot and stick approach. The carrot being, the reward for what they're doing right. Well, we're going to give you a bonus, or we're going to give you some swag for the most entries or closed in a day. Those things are good. You can do that to try to encourage adoption, encourage people to use the system. You can also encourage no rework. Management's going to have visibility into your work, so you're not going to have to do it twice. Those are all kind of incentives. You can also go with the stick approach, the negative part of things, right? I want to, if it doesn't exist in D365, that it doesn't exist. You're going to be in trouble if you don't make the two weeks in a row, if you don't get your calls done, or if you don't update your opportunities, whatever that thing is you're trying to drive adoption for. Those types of things are good, and you sometimes have to do it. But I really want you to think about steps 1 through 9, so that way when you get to 10, there's only a couple of individuals that you're typically working with that need that carrot and stick motivation. And I think if you can kind of think about this in a way that gives you the ability to do all of that work up front, then by the time you get to the carrot and stick approach, it will be a very manageable set of individuals. You're always going to have certain individuals that have trouble with adoption and don't want to use the system, or just struggle with technology. You're always going to have that, but it can't be everybody. You've got to make sure that you've done all the pre-work to get most of the people to adopt naturally, so that way when you get to the carrot and stick, you're only dealing with a handful of individuals. So that's a good top 10. I've got some more slides. I will share all of these slides with everyone. We'll figure out the way to do that. But there's more here about kind of how you encourage certain personality types. We don't have time for it. I apologize for that. I should have had a backup plan for those types of things, so that's my fault. But I will make sure that you guys get the slides, so that way you can have all of the detail there.
Hey, Dustin. Thank you so much for, sorry, I got a bit of an echo, but thank you so much for adapting so quickly and running a slightly different session to, I think, the one that you had planned. Really, really appreciate that. There's some great tips there. It's all gold as far as I was concerned. Do we have any questions? I know there's some interested people on the chat.
No questions. Really useful. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks for bearing with us, everyone, while we were just waiting for Dustin to come in. We made our own entertainment and talked about some of this stuff already, but I think what I've found is some of those things that have been talked about require money outside of the normal project time. So those steps that you need to do beforehand, you need to include that in your budgeting. The stuff you need to do afterwards, after you've gone live, that also requires resources and effort and everything else. And they're the bits that get neglected in my experience. And trying to get money after the fact is more difficult, isn't it? Or going back for more money, even worse. Yeah, but no, I love those tips. Thanks very much. I was taking some notes as we went along as well. If anyone does have any questions, any further questions, so we have one in the chat actually. Are there any tools you use for measuring adoption across different teams? That's for you, Dustin.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So, we don't get fancy. I don't think there's any ISV product that I've just said this is a great tool. A lot of times we'll build a dashboard, but what we do is we actually assign homework as a part of each session. So there will be an output of a design session that will come with a set of homework that will then be assigned to the users. And then we build a quick dashboard or something that will measure that homework. So as an example, if the homework is everyone needs to go and create 3 opportunities for themselves in various stages. Then the dashboard could be opportunities by user that you would then show in the next session to be able to say, let's see who did their homework. And that kind of encouragement and visibility is something that we do a lot of. But other than that, it's really all about, I would really encourage everybody to go take a look at that. Let me find the website again real quick here. It was, hopefully somebody grabbed a screenshot of that slide. If not, I'll send it to you. But the Power Platform Adoption Framework from Andrew Welch, that's a good one. I think take a look at those tools, because he does have a lot of really good kind of pre-packaged templates and stuff that would be great for some of those tools you're mentioning. And then the homework piece as a part of UAT, yeah, so we actually use that all the way from the beginning. So the design sessions will have an output of homework, as well as the user adoption UAT sessions, and then training also. So we kind of carry that theme of homework all the way through the project. So that way everyone's used to it.
Cool.
But by the time that they've gotten to the end of go live, I mean, they've entered 100 opportunities or whatever the process is because of how many times that they've been through it. So it becomes old hat.
Yeah, that's really useful. I will definitely try and do that with mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Dirk's just made the comment there that he's been guilty of keeping the troublemakers at arm's length. I think that's a great point. You know, it's always the people that you're a little bit frightened to bring on board, the disruptors
Sure.
that actually can bring a lot of benefit as well. You know, obviously they have to, you know, you have to control them to a certain extent. I've had that in the past, but yeah,
Yep.
Good point.
Yeah, that's great, Dirk.
Okay, great. Well, we're a few minutes over our sort of target time, and just to give everybody a little break before the next sessions, I think we can probably call it a day there. But just again, thank you very much, Dustin, for adapting for us, and thanks to everyone else for kind of hanging in there and asking some good questions as well. We will share the recording of this, and also Dustin mentioned the slides there, so there'll be a thread on d365ug.com where we'll post the slides. So Dustin, if you want to send them to me, or if you want to post them there, that's absolutely fine. But we'll put that up tomorrow. But no, thank you very much. Thank you, Dustin, for speaking. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the time. Good
Thanks
to speak
so
to you.
much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.